The night Jon Snow opened his eyes again, the world felt colder. The breath he drew in did not feel like life returning, but something else taking its place. His heart beat, his eyes blinked, his voice whispered her name, but to those who knew him, something was gone. That moment at Castle Black was celebrated as a miracle, a gift from the Lord of Light, proof that good could still rise after death. But what if it was not a gift at all? What if the Jon Snow who returned from death was not truly the same man who died? What if resurrection did not restore him but replaced him? Before his death, Jon Snow was a man defined by honor and heart. He loved fiercely and believed stubbornly in what was right. He was the boy who took his vows seriously, who held to his word even when the world mocked him for it. When he united the wildlings and the Night's Watch, when he risked everything to save those beyond the wall, he acted with compassion and conviction, but after his resurrection there was a hollow stillness inside him. He was quieter, colder, more distant. His eyes no longer held the fire of purpose they once did. It is easy to say that dying changed him, but what if it was not change? Well, what if it was replacement? In the lore of Westeros, resurrection is never simple. Magic always demands a price. Beric Dondarrion was revived 6 times by Thoros of Myre, and each time he came back, a piece of him was missing. He said he forgot faces, memories, emotions. He became a shadow of himself, animated only by purpose. When Melisandre brought Jon back, she did not bring him through divine perfection. She pulled him through fire and blood magic, forces older than the faith of the Seven, and darker than human understanding. It is possible that the magic did not retrieve Jon's soul, but created something that could fill his body. Perhaps what returned was not Jon, but a fragment of something else. There are moments after his return that feel unnatural. When Jon reunites with Sansa, his love is present, but muted. His decisions at Winterfell carry a sense of detachment, as if his emotions were dulled. Even his fear of death is gone. A man who has seen death may act with courage, but Jon acts with indifference. When Melisandre tells him that he was brought back for a reason, Jon never questions what that reason truly is. He accepts his new existence with quiet despair, as if some part of him knows that he no longer belongs among the living. If we look deeper, his story mirrors something ancient and unsettling in the world's mythology. In the old stories of the first men, the gods of the north did not bring people back whole. They revived warriors through the spirits of the weirwoods or shadows of the old gods. These resurrected beings were often altered, bound to purpose instead of self. In Jon's case, his death marked the end of the boy who lived by honor and love, and the beginning of something colder, more primal. After that night, he becomes a vessel for duty alone. He stops fighting for the joy of victory or the dream of peace. He fights because it is all that is left. Even the Lord of Light's magic has a history of corruption. Melisandre's fire is not a gentle flame, it consumes to create. When she performed the ritual, she called on the same god who demanded sacrifice after sacrifice to show power. Stannis' daughter burned for that faith. Could it be that the fire did not return Jon but consumed him and replaced his spirit with something that could serve its will? What if the God of Light did not save Jon Snow, but used his body as a tool in its own war against darkness? There is another strange detail. When Jon is resurrected, his direwolf ghost wakes at the same moment. Their connection had always been spiritual. The Starks' bond with their wolves was not just emotional, it was magical, ancient. If Jon's soul was tied to Ghost, what if his spirit lingered there while his body was lifeless? When Melisandre's spell pulled something back, what if it did not pull Jon's true self, but something foreign into that space? That could explain why Jon seems more withdrawn afterward. His humanity may have stayed inside the wolf, while something empty returned to wear his face. Jon's actions after resurrection support this eerie theory. He abandons the Night's Watch, the very oath that defined his life. He fights in the Battle of the Bastards with reckless rage rather than strategy. He confronts Ramsay Bolton face to face, running towards certain death as if life means nothing. Later, when he meets Daenerys, his choices are guided less by logic and more by fate, as if something beyond him is pulling the strings. When he kills her, it is not done out of passion or mercy, but out of grim inevitability. There is no joy, no sorrow, only duty. It is as if Jon has become a vessel for balance, a tool meant to end fire with ice. If this idea is true, then the man who was resurrected was not Jon Snow, but an echo of something older. Perhaps the gods of ice and fire used him as a temporary bridge. The real Jon, the one who loved Ygritte and swore his vows at the wall, may have found peace in death. What returned was the weapon Westeros needed, not the man his friends remembered. It would explain the emptiness in his eyes when the war is over. It would explain why he could walk away from power so easily. He was never meant to rule because he was never meant to live among men again. In his final moments on the show, as Jon rides north of the wall with the free folk, he does not look like a man in exile. He looks like someone going home. Maybe the thing inside him no longer belonged in Westeros at all. Maybe it was drawn to the ancient magic of the lands beyond the wall to return to whatever created it. The North had always been the place where life and death blurred, where magic lived in the trees and ghosts walked the snow. Perhaps that is where Jon's true self rests, inside the wind, the forest, and the silence of endless winter. This interpretation also changes how we see Melisandre. She believed she brought him back to fulfill prophecy, but maybe her god deceived her. She may have resurrected the body, but never the soul. The Lord of Light could have used Jon's face as a vessel to correct the balance between darkness and flame. When her purpose ended, she cast off her necklace and died peacefully, knowing her part was done. Maybe Jon too was only meant to exist until his task was complete. When we see him leave behind the people he saved, there is no farewell, no promise to return, only quiet acceptance. That moment feels less like exile and more like release. The North reclaims him, the wall closes behind him, and the man who was once Jon Snow walks into the snow as if melting into myth. If resurrection in this world is never pure, then maybe Jon's story was never about conquering death, but showing its cost. He came back without warmth, without belonging, and without the fire that once defined him. In the end, Jon's greatest tragedy is not that he died, it is that when he returned, he was no longer truly himself. So perhaps Jon Snow was not resurrected at all. Perhaps the gods replaced him with something else, something that would restore the balance between ice and fire. And when the balance was achieved, that presence simply returned to where it came from. What remained was only a man-shaped echo walking into the snow, fading into legend. If you enjoyed this story and theory, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Peace.